Okay, again, within the groove, now let's sort of talk about your role in groove, because again, there's this thing that you've done for the industry, for me, which is the new groove, which is Praise Fest. The introduction of gospel artists from across the world. Very weird, even some of them from, let's talk about Praise Fest and what Praise Fest has done for here. Because I was at Travis Green, and Travis Green I was just like, yo, I can't even find a place to sit.
So Praise Fest was, so maybe just for clarity, that I served on the panel, not as a staff member, for many years. And then I served on staff for 2 years, ending early this year.
January
is when I stepped off that team.
Let's talk about, about then your transition into staff. Because was that different into role types?
Yeah, obviously now, because now what happened is I came on to Groove as now the team lead. Is the language there, and the team lead was now internal, because I was on the outside all those years. People thought I owned Groove or whatnot. I'm just like, my guys, people meet me on the streets and say, hey, good job with Groove. I'm like, okay, I'm just on the panel.
Let me say it in a different way. It's like a guy who goes to church and serves. He helps on Sunday, make things happen on Sunday, but he's got his day job.
That was me.
That was what you were doing.
That was me for maybe 11 years with Groove. So, and
then recently is when you decided, okay.
So they asked me to join the team, and it was in that season that I think I found Praise Fest, and it was a product that they had already launched, I think, with Sinach early on. And I think the thing about Praise Fest is there's been an interesting shift globally, towards worship, where gospel music is. You know, music is not static, yeah? Music kind of comes, it has seasons.
That's why I'm not rapping.
It's I know, by the way. Because if you think about the rap that you did
compared to now
back then, and then you listen to Scooby the Lazy Rapper, you know him?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. And I'm just like, stylistically it's so different. And worship was big when we brought in Ron Kenoli and Alvin Slaughter into Kenya years ago, and then pop just took over. Kenyan pop took over completely in terms of gospel music. And then, in fact, Kenya was one of the few countries that in terms of gospel, were not consuming any foreign music.
It's true.
You go and ask DJ Gigi what he plays. He plays local music. Go ask DJ Sadiq or DJ Mo. They play local music. So I've lost my trail of thought.
You're explaining now. I've lost your trail of thought. See what happens when you mention Gigi's name.
But we're talking about
Praise Fest and where it goes.
Also about So talk about the transition into worship music.
Okay, yes.
And so let me explain it for you globally, at least in the American scene, because they're the ones who kind of set the pace for us. So you had your time when your Kirk Franklins and your Mary Marys, your Dietrich Hardons and people like that were big. Now they have completely shifted where their artists who are, the bigger name artists are all worship artists. They're all contemporary worship artists. So you talk about Travis Green, you talk about Tasha Cobbs, talking about Todd Dulaney, who was here earlier. You're talking about they're slipping my mind, but it's that whole new breed of artists.
Yes.
And the thing about it is I think it's going to become a global thing. Is what my suspicion is that it is going to eventually reach us here in terms of worship. And you're going to see with your Bethus and with your Rebecca Dawn,
yes,
type artists, not just worship leaders, but worship artists.
Alice Kimanzi,
absolutely. It's a thing I think that's going to grow, and I think Praise Fest is one of those products that I think is asking ourselves, how do we? It's next. It's how do we go next? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of worship leaders, if they're worship leaders watching this thing, is to say and from my experience, that's where I think we are headed. In terms of musical expression of gospel music. It might take a little bit longer.
Let's be real. Even in Kenya, everybody, if you look at the complaints about the gospel music industry, it's the content. It's this gospel? Is this? What are you saying? You know what I mean? So it's like people just want, take me back to the basics. Take me back to that presence of God, lack of a better explanation, which is what a lot of people are calling what you're saying, the worship.
Yeah.
Songs that emotionally invoke me.
I think so, and I don't know if that's the reason. I think pop does have its place, and I'll explain. And I think why I think pop is important is pop enters spaces that worship can't.
It's true.
You know, so if I go to a high school in Chavakali with a guardian angel,
crazy,
and I go with Ekodida, and I go, it gets like that. There's a thing it opens that I find, because pop has to do with popular culture.
Yes, pop is the language
culture?
of.
Pop is the language of.
Yes,
so I think there is
of that demographic.
Whereas I think people say, oh, this gospel pop thing should die. I don't think so.
I agree.
I think it needs to be cleaned up, but I don't think it needs to die. I don't think that's what needs to happen. But in the same vein, I do feel that the global expression is going to become worship at some point. And I could be wrong. And I think what Praise Fest does, Praise Fest taps into that. It says, because if you look at the Praise Fest gigs, good Lord, they're like this. There's no Praise Fest gig that are not packed out completely. I think there have been four so far, and there'll be a couple this year that I'm sure the team internally must be planning for.
Dear team, if you're listening, Tasha Cobbs, Tafadhali Praise.
Yeah. So but all those gigs have been oversubscribed.
Yes.
At what is our biggest Christian venue, which is Sitam Karen. And it tells you something. And my hope is to see your Alice Kimanzis and your Masi Masika, who is considering a much more worshipy sound. Your Rebecca Dons, your Bethus, your Mwanga, and people like that. Kanjii.
Your Kanjiis, yeah. In fact, I was going to say Kanjii.
Kanjii Mbogwa, and all those guys, I feel as though there's now a space that's opening up for that. And I'm hoping, my hope with a thing like Praise Fest and similar properties by whoever creates them, is that it'll tap into that thing for worship a little bit more. Because I went to KICC when ICC was doing a worship gig at KICC, and completely packed out. And it was
even the Afleos.
Afleo, yeah, absolutely. And Twakutukuza,
yes,
and things like that. That expression is going to grow. I think where it's going to leave pop, I'm not sure where it's going to leave pop, but I'd hate to see pop die, because pop is pop, and it just opens doors.
You've spoken, and I'm just like, imagine a merge of those two. Imagine thinking about a merge of pop and worship. And
I think that's what's happened with your contemporary worship guys. I think that's what Travis Green is. He's not worshiping in like Hillsong.
Yes.
You're more traditional. Even Hillsong themselves have changed and taken up a much more
pop sound. It's true.
Through the years. So you're right, that merger of it, I think, is where the magic is going to be in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
For sure.
Since we're at Industry Vibe, and we're about to end this, I would love to know your thoughts on where we are at right now. As the Kenyan gospel music industry, that's what this conversation has been predominantly about. And as somebody who, you're as much as you're giving props to the Kevs and the Kanjis and I think you're that person, and that's why you're on the Playhouse. You can talk about being at Barclays. People have no idea. There's a generation that was not even born then, and all the way up until you have been involved in Bahati. Bahati's gig.
Yeah. I never thought about that, by the way.
You get what I mean? You have seen artists like me come and go. And you're not just there. You're there.
So you're gone, eh?
Yeah, I'm gone. I'm behind the camera. But
close your eyes.
But
that's my jam.
I closed them too long.
We snoozed.
So why, by the way, you actually have done a whole lot for this industry, and I'm extremely grateful for that. I think you've touched, and you're not just touched with your hands, you've touched with your heart. That's good. But anyway,
you come to this side
and just recorded myself. So what's your take on where the industry is? Where do we need? Where is it?
Okay,
real talk, not.
You don't want PR. Right?
Yeah, I don't want PR. I don't want to in front of a camera.
Okay, I have to rethink my answer then.
Yeah,
I'll be honest and say